Alright, we're looking at 6-4 out of the packet I made for you on page 218, comparing and ordering rational numbers. You've compared and ordered numbers before, now we're doing this with positive and negatives, fractions, and decimals. So you're going to have to think about it. Why do you want to learn this? Well, you can compare measurements such as weights or lengths in different forms when you want to determine the greatest or least amount. Negative rational numbers can represent quantities like debt, temperature below zero, and distance below sea level. So you've plotted positive and negative rational numbers on a number line, but a number line can also help you compare and order these rational numbers. Alright, so let's look at this number one example here, comparing negative 12.4 and negative 12.65. You can plot these on a number line to see which is greater than or less than, or also remember, the larger the negative money, or the larger the negative number is, the larger the negative number, the less, think of it as money, the less money you have. So the less that number is worth. But let's look at it down the number line. Plot both negative decimals on the same number line, divide the number line into tenths, and then you're going to locate this negative 12.65 halfway between negative 12.6 and negative 12.7. If that doesn't make sense, just think of this as adding the 0 on the end of this one and this number, so it becomes negative 12.60 and negative 12.70, and what goes in between there halfway? Negative 12.65. So they find this negative 12.4 on the number line, and then negative 12.65 halfway between 12.6 and 12.7. And if you look at this again, 0 is way, way, way over here, so as you move left of 0, away from 0, the numbers have less value. So since negative 12.65 is to the left of negative 12.4 on the number line, negative 12.65 is less than negative 12.4. So you could write it like this, or you could also write it the opposite way, say negative 12.4 is greater than negative 12.65. And again, I'm just going to say, if you were thinking about money in the whole, you have less money if you're in debt $12.65 than if you're in debt $12.40. So do this quick check, number one here, A and B, and then push play and see which is, see if you got it right. So A is, I have the number 12 and 5/100ths, and it's negative 12 and 5/100ths, and then negative 12.5 or 12 and 5/10ths. You can put a 0 on the end of this if it would help you. And again, I'm going to say, think of this as money. Which one are you in the whole more? Which one makes you have less money? The bigger the negative, the less it's worth. And if we compare these two numbers left to right, they both have a 1 in the tens place, a 2 in the ones place, and then we get to this tenths place, and this one has a 0 on the left, and this one has a 5. So it's a greater number, but because it's a negative, you'd have less money. It would be less than 12.05. If I was going to plot these on a number line, 12.05 is going to be closer to 0 than 12.5. Look at B. We've got negative 12.98 and negative 12.89. Again, the greater the negative, the less it's worth. So looking at that, which one has a bigger number next to that negative? Again, looking left to right, here we have 1 and then 2. And then we get to the tenths place again, where there's a different number, and this one is a 9, where this is a 10. So this may be a larger number, but it's actually less than because it's a negative. All right, let's look at some more examples. All right, let's look at the top of page 219, this comparing fractions. So they want you to compare negative 5/6 and negative 5/8 to decide which one's greater than or less than. And because the denominators are divided into sixths here and eighths here, they want you to go ahead and divide your number line into sixths and eighths. So if we start at 0 here, we can find our sixths. Here we have negative 1 sixth, 2, let's see, I'm looking here, 2 sixths, 3 sixths, 4 sixths, and here would be negative 5 sixths. And then they divide it into eighths, so 1/8, 2/8, negative 3/8. Here's 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, and so on. And then they have you go ahead and plot it, so you see the negative 5 sixths, your negative 5/8, and you should be able to tell which one is less than because it's the furthest away from 0, or the furthest to the left becomes a lesser number. So you would write it like this: negative 5 sixths is less than negative 5/8, or you can flip it around and flip your sign around and say negative 5/8 is greater than negative 5 sixths. Alright, let's look at this quick check. Go ahead and try number 2, A and B. Pause me, and then hit play when you're ready to check and see if you're right. Alright, so we're looking at A, which is negative 5/8 and negative 1/2. And it's really going to help to compare these numbers if you have like denominators. And so find an equivalent fraction. For example, 1/2, we can turn that into eighths, right, by multiplying by 4. So do the same to the top. Multiply 1 by 4. So 1/2 is the same as 4/8. Alright, so we have now looking at negative 5/8 and negative 4/8, comparing these numbers. Now remember, 5/8 is more than 4/8 unless it's a negative, because that puts it further away from 0 to the left. So it's actually worth less. So we would say 5/8, negative 5/8 is less than negative 4/8, or less than negative 1/2. Here we have negative 4 whole, negative 4 whole, and then we have the number 7/12, and we have 2/3. Again, let's make this 2/3 into 12ths, because we can do that by multiplying 3 by 4. So we need to multiply 2 by 4, which gives us 8. So now think of it as negative 4 and 7/12 compared to negative 4 and 8/12. Well, they're both negative, so the larger negative is actually going to be worth less. And this is a larger number here. 8/12 is larger than 7/12. And because it's negative, that means it's going to be worth less. It's going to be farther to the left on the number line away from 0. So we're going to say that negative 4 and 7/12 is actually greater than negative 4 and 2/3. Okay, let's look at this other example on page 219. We're comparing decimals and fractions. And when you're doing that, I suggest let's make the fractions a decimal, so you're comparing the same kind of numbers. It makes it a lot easier to compare. But here they're going to go ahead and show you how to plot both on a number line. Alright, so here we're looking at elevation. Two cities are below sea level. City A has an elevation of negative 1 2/3 feet, where City B has an elevation of negative 1.8 feet. Which city has the lower elevation? So we're thinking of this number line vertically, right? We have 0, sea level, and these are all below sea level. We want to know which one is lower. So locate each on the same number line, and here they've just made that vertical number line horizontal. And they want you, they said the denominator is 3 as far as 1 2/3, and the decimal is to the tenths place. So they want you to go ahead and mark off thirds and tenths here, and they show you how each, here's my 1 to 2, 1 whole, and they mark it off into tenths. They also mark it off into thirds. Here's the 1/3, 2/3, and then 3/3 would make that next whole. And then the tenths are marked off here also. And they plot these numbers. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go ahead and make this negative 1 2/3 a decimal that you can compare to negative 1.8. Alright, so all you have to do is, you know, this is going to be 1, negative 1 point something, which all it takes is the calculator and punching in 2 divided by 3, and you would get this continuing 0.666. So we'll call it 0.6, rounded up to 7 here. So we're looking at, well, which one is let's see, it's looking for the lower elevation. So further down the number line, or less. And if you look this, it's going to be the negative that is a larger number. It's going to be further down the number line. So that would be 1 8/10 of a feet, or city B has a lower elevation than city A. Alright, do this quick check. Number 3, solve each problem. Pause me and then push play when you're ready to check your work. Alright, so A says city C has an elevation of negative 1 24/100 of a feet, whereas city D has an elevation of negative 1 3/10 of a feet. Which city has a higher elevation? Again, I'm going to make this negative 1 3/10 into a decimal. So take 3 divided by 10, and you would get 3/10, or you would know that 3/10 just could be written with a 3 in the tenths place. And now I can look at this. Now, which one's going to be further down, or actually not further down, they want higher, so not as far down on the number line. Well, negative 1.3 is less than, it would be further down the number line, so city C, right here, would have a higher elevation. So that would have been your answer to that one. Let's look at B. City E has an elevation of negative 6.8 feet, whereas city F has an elevation of negative 6 4/5 feet. So go ahead and make that into tenths so you can compare, or just divide 4 by 5, and you'd get 8/10. So city F actually also has an elevation of 6 8/10 of a foot. So actually both cities have the same elevation. They are the same. So it helps when you actually make these both decimals or both fractions with like denominators in order to compare the numbers. Alright, the book makes a point, oops, hold on just a sec. Alright, here we go, to remind you that you can order rational numbers by plotting all the numbers on the same number line and then comparing the locations of the points. So they're going to do that. Alright, so here's another example of ordering rational numbers. On Monday the temperature was negative 2/10 Celsius. On Tuesday the temperature was negative 1 1/2 degrees Celsius. It was negative 1 degree Celsius on Wednesday, 2.4 degrees Celsius on Thursday, and 1 3/4 degrees Celsius on Friday. They want you to write the temperature in order from least to greatest, and they go ahead and say, let's draw a number line from negative 2 to 3 and divide it into halves to plot these temperatures on the number line. So, and they do that for you here. They show you where each of these lie, and then they go ahead and say, let's compare these locations of the points. The least number is going to be to the left, and it would move greater as it moves to the right. And so then they go ahead and label them for you. So the largest negative is first. Negative 1 1/2 degrees Celsius is the least. Then negative 1 degree Celsius. Then the smallest negative 2/10 degrees Celsius. And then we have 1 3/4 degrees Celsius, and the greatest number 2.4 degrees Celsius. Alright, for homework, go ahead and try number 4 on this quick check, and then also do all of this for your understanding. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are ordering, right? Above is compare. Number 1 is explain, and then this open-ended question. It says, give one example of a rational number that is greater than negative 3.2, an example that's less than negative 3.2. remember what I did in, maybe it was this lesson or the last, to find numbers in between here. And, or greater than and less than here. And then bring that to class with a question tomorrow.